was March 2008. I was preparing for one of the longer trials of my career, anticipated to be about 5 weeks. Daylight savings was about to happen. Flow Riders Low was at the top of the charts, and Semi Pro was the number one movie at the box office. The price of a stamp was 41 cents. And now you might be wondering why I remember this. I mean, who remembers the price of a stamp? Well, I do, because it was the day I figured out that systems were the path forward for me and my firm. It was on a Saturday night, and I was trying to get some mail out the door. If you've read Tiger Tactics, which is available on Amazon, you would know that sometimes I do have an issue with procrastination, and knowing that I had a trial that was going to consume me, I wanted to get my mail thing done before attention was lost. My problem was that there was only 39 cents on the postage meter, and 39 cents was not going to be enough for my 41-cent stamp need. So I was sitting at my secretary's desk, and it seemed like I was sitting there for hours just fumbling around. I could not figure out how to add more postage to the account. And knowing that I was going to be in trial and not even be able to see my staff for a few weeks really, really frustrated me. And I knew there had to be a way to solve this problem. I mean, I started thinking about all the things that could happen if my staff, Emily, who was my helper at the time, was hit by a truck. What would happen? So I left her a note on her desk. I took the envelope out. I said, number one, put this in the mail right away when you get into the office. And two, while I'm away, just write out the name of everything that you do every day while I'm on trial, just so I can get a feel for what kind of work you're doing. Well, I lost that trial. I came back to the office. I wasn't in the greatest of all moods, but that's when my mood changed, right? Because I sat down at my desk, and Emily came in with a yellow legal pad, a long one, and it was a list that she made. It was 3.5 pages long. She had put a ton of attention into the list while I was gone. Of course, she used that list to negotiate a raise afterwards, which she truly was due. But every little thing she did was on there. So I looked at her, I looked at the list, and I said, listen, if you get down instructions for each one of these things, in the next 3 weeks, I'm going to give you $500 cash. So I set a deadline. And guess what? She got it done. And that Word file that she created wound up getting printed out and put in a binder, and that became our firm's first operations manual. We created an index for it, we added tabs. It was as pretty as a trial notebook. And since that time, 12 years have passed, and we've done all different sorts of operations manuals. We started with that Word document, we printed it, and we put it in a 3-ring binder. Then we went to a folder on our server so that anybody in the office could access it. Then we went to a folder on the cloud so that anybody could access that even if they weren't in the office. And now we actually have a whole dedicated wiki, a standalone website. But the whole point of the knowledge base idea is to get it out of any one person's head and make it accessible to everyone in your office. So in the last 12 years, I've learned a lot about using this type of product, and I wanted to give everybody here some tips and a system for building systems so that you can leave this webinar today and implement it in your office or even at your home, so that you can eliminate all those little headaches we all get when the little things creep up and throw a monkey wrench into our day. Now, first and foremost, you have to have buy-in from everyone that you work with, all the attorneys, all the staff in your office, that there's going to be one way to do things. If you're going to delegate it, you need to have this is our one way, and it is a one-way street because they are either going to be on board or they must be gone. You cannot function efficiently if anyone is going to fight the way that you do things in your office. So what we have here today is a system for building systems. And just like each system, you follow this system for building system because each and every part is going to be critical. Now, while the person who builds the system intrinsically knows each part and how they play, the person who has to use the system just might not. And each part of your system has a role in getting it created, followed, understood, and implemented. So let's start with step one of any good system. Section one is going to be our overall concept. What is it? What are we teaching them to do? What's the context for it? Is this general office information? Is it administrative information? Or is it legal information, legal specific? Is this type of information specific to a particular type of case that we handle? Who's going to use this system? Is this a lawyer system, a paralegal system, an administrative system? This is the stuff that you need to answer right up front before you even start writing them out. Identify who's going to use the system mostly, because a lawyer understands things about law that a paralegal might not. Now, depending on your audience, you probably need to tailor the language and the depth in which you go based on who's going to be taking in the information. For like general office information, maybe like your tax ID number, you want to make it available to anybody, including the frontline person who may answer the call from the insurance company, and give them an idea why it could be okay or maybe it's not okay to give out that information. You want to put it all in there so they can wrap their head around it. But the really cool thing, the good thing, is that as you document these things, you're going to start to see patterns emerge, and you're also going to see more ideas for more entries than you ever thought possible at first. Okay, so now let's talk about step two of the process. The step two is going to be the mechanics of the process, right? Here's the thing. You need to come at this like the people who are following your systems, number one, have no idea what you do. Number two, have no idea where things are stored in the office. Like if you have to hire a temp worker because your main person is out for a couple of weeks after with an illness. And basically that they have no idea about anything in the law, right? So think of it as like an elderly aunt or uncle who's helping you out, but they can barely type, but you need to make a system that they can follow to open up a brand new file in your office. Now, what if it's a form motion or a strategy or a tactic or a way to approach a particular type of hearing? Are there specific steps you have to take before you can even start this task? All that can be documented. What resources do you need? To open a file, you need a file folder, a label, that type of stuff. Make sure that they understand what they're going to need. Can you link it or connect with other systems that you've created? I like to provide copies with explanations as necessary. Sometimes that we could find that it's going to take a couple hours to type everything up, but if you just record a quick video, you'll be able to just tell people about a system. We do it on YouTube. It's free. You just make it a private video, and it doesn't really cost you anything to do that. But please make sure to break it down into the smallest step possible each and every time. Another thing we like to do is create a checklist or action steps so that people can follow it, make sure they hit each thing as they go. Make those things downloadable if you're going to store it on the web. Remember, the person you're going to have doing this stuff is going to have zero idea how to do it and doesn't have access to your brain or your life experiences and any ability to follow it through, right? Think of it as if you're explaining it to a 10-year-old or that elderly aunt, people who don't have experience doing what it is that we do. If they can get it, right, if they can really understand it and put into place what you need to do by following your instructions or reading your chart, then you're really succeeding. Now, if you're creating systems for other lawyers in your office, if you're talking about legal motions or other documents, include variations of the form so a newly admitted attorney has guidance as to what a final product should look like. In appellate law, you're filing a motion for an extension of time. Give us a copy of it so that we can model our motion on yours. Finally, and here's the most important part, you need to tell them why you're going to do it. This section is absolutely critical. We always need to include the why we do something so another person can understand the importance of the task and how it works with our other systems. Staffers, other lawyers, they don't always see the whole picture, and part of you being a good boss is helping them get there. So this is a critical portion of your system. It's not enough to be a dictator and say, this is it, this is my way, it's the only way, even if it's evident to you. People crave to understand. They lack vision. They lack the ability to even see things that can interplay with one another. I mean, heck, employees today don't even have to figure out how to use a map because they just put the address in their phone and it dings and tells them where to turn or says it out loud. They don't have to be able to read a map. Some people simply cannot think outside the box. And if you give them a reason that they can finally understand why you want it done a particular way, they can go, oh, Okay, I understand. Like, for example, with me, right? In my trial notebooks, I always make my police report to be on yellow paper. I have one copy on yellow paper. And I do this because when I'm flipping through my notebook and I want to pull out the police report to maybe refresh my recollection or a witness's recollection, I don't have to stop and look and find that white piece of paper in my folder. I can just look and see, okay, I'm looking for yellow, right? And I'm in the flow, I grab the yellow and I'm good to go. Once I explain that to my staff, it allows them to say, okay, that makes sense to me. I understand why Jay wants it that way. So they buy into it, right? And that's important. We want our employees to buy in. Unfortunately, for some of them, building systems can be seen as a threat to them. The old timers, they don't want to give up their knowledge because they believe that's what keeps them employed, right? And they get scared that you take that knowledge out of their head and you hire someone cheaper. I mean, that's really the capitalistic way, right? But of course, that's true in some situations, and that's something that you need for your viability of your law firm. Then that's what needs to be done, right? But secondly, and probably even more importantly, is that buy-in is going to be important to make sure the systems you create are truly functional systems. The last thing you need to have is sort of a half-documented system that isn't truly updated and it isn't your truly best practices. There have been old timers that have worked in my office that prefer to do things the inefficient way because that's just the way they've done it over years. And that can't happen. It certainly can't happen. Now, a few things have worked for me to get people to buy into our systems. First and foremost, I get them to be the ones to build the systems. I pay them to do it. It's a way for them to earn a bonus and show me their knowledge. I offer a bonus. We set waypoints. Okay, you get 10 done, I give you $100. Yeah, when we all reach 100, everyone gets $500. This way, everyone's working towards that same goal, and everyone is vested into creating them. The next thing we want to do is we create a contest for like simplest system or craziest system, stuff like that, best video system. Make them engage with coming up with systems that they might use and you would never ever consider because it's just not in your daily life, right? Have people vote them up or down, have them share it with their coworkers. One of the things that we do in our office is we have a scheduled weekly email check-in that everyone fills out. And as part of the check-in questions, we ask them what systems they've used this week and what systems they found that they were missing. We want them to document it, create it for our systems, right? Make them think systems all the time. So you make your systems part of your weekly one-on-ones with them or your check-ins, talk about it with them. And recognize that if someone is going to fight you on this, someone who's been with you for 20 plus years and say, I don't want to do it this way, they're not being a good team player. And you need to figure out if they're going to be with you for the long term. One of the things that we do at the last week of the year, every year in December, is we look for corrections. We go through all of our systems and see what's changed and what we need to fix. But most importantly, if someone comes and asks you a question, ask them, did you check our systems, right? And if there is, and they didn't check, blame them. If there's no system, it's on you to create it. Now, there's hundreds of options out there for building systems. There's services that you can get on the internet. There's Word documents, Google documents. You can use YouTube videos. You can build your own website through Lightswitch like we did. But the method doesn't matter. It's the execution of systems is really what matters. So, yesterday afternoon, coronavirus hits. I have everybody in the office sent home. I need to put a stamp on an envelope. It took no time at all. I had a system to follow. My only problem was that the cost of the stamp now was 55 cents. So I need your help in developing a system to stop inflation. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions that you might have at this time.